Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching.
The boulevard had been a market once. Now it was a chute for the dying. Major Boris Viper Solikov ran low, shoulder to the rubble, dragging Private Johnson by the harness. Plasma scored the wall above them. Glass cooked to slag rained down. "Move," Viper said. "Move." Johnson moved. Then he didn't. Something flickered 3 meters out. A heat shimmer where there was no heat. Viper fired into it on instinct. 2 rounds, and the shimmer answered with a blade of white light that opened Johnson from collarbone to hip. The soldier folded around the wound. No scream, no time for one. The shadow killer decloaked over the body to finish the work it didn't need to do. Crystalline plate. Limbs too long, too smooth. A faceplate like wet obsidian that gave back Viper's own reflection. Viper put his last 3 rounds into its throat seam. The alien staggered, leaked light, and went down, twitching. "Solikov," Dog's voice ahead. "Left, the hab stack." They ran for it. 4 of them now, where this morning there'd been 30. Viper, Dog, Ghost, and Chop, who for once had nothing to say. Behind them, the boulevard sang with that high crystal hum the Xylari made when they were enjoying themselves. The hum meant more were coming. The hum always meant more. Golden Haven. That was the name on the old plates bolted to the dead buildings. The Xylari called the city Tartarus 9 now, and they'd been right to rename it. 6 months of occupation had turned a colony capital into an abattoir with streetlights. The 13th Human Expeditionary Force had come to take it back. The fleet that brought them was burning in orbit. You could see it at night, falling in pieces. They went up the hab stack 3 floors and stopped because the stairs had stopped. "Dead end," Chop said. First words in 10 minutes. "It's not dead," Dog said. "Till we are." Master Sergeant Diego Dog. Morales was a wall of a man with half a face. The half that was missing had been replaced with crude gray metal that didn't quite fit, so his expression never changed on that side. The other side was grinning. He always grinned before it got bad. It had taught the squad to read him like weather. Down in the stairwell, the dark began to ripple. "Ammo," Viper said. "Dry," said Ghost. "Dry," said Chop. Dog said nothing. Dog didn't carry much that needed loading. The first shadow killer came up the stairs without touching them, gliding, half there and half not. The cloak made it a smear of bent light. It was beautiful, in the way a knife is beautiful, right up until it's in you. It reached the landing and the cloak hiccuped. That close, the field couldn't hold clean. For half a second, the alien flickered solid. A tell, a flaw, gone almost before the eye caught it. Dog caught it. He brought Maria around. Maria was the power claw bolted to his right arm. 3 hydraulic blades the length of a man's forearm, scarred and stained and named after nobody he'd ever explain. He swung Maria into the shadow killer's flickering chest, and the field collapsed, and the crystal armor cracked like river ice, and the thing inside came apart wet. Dog held it there, claw buried, motor whining, and grinned at the sound it made. "There's the noise," he said. "There's my noise." A second one vaulted the rail behind Ghost. Ghost was already turning. Staff Sergeant James, Ghost. Trevor was a sniper by trade and by temperament, pale and quiet, and most comfortable a kilometer from anything that could touch him. He had no kilometer now. He had no rounds. So he became the other thing he was. The combat knife came off his vest. He went under the energy blade, felt the heat part his hair, and put the knife into the seam under the alien's arm, twice, fast, then wrote it down as it dropped. He moved like the building had no air in it to disturb. No grunt. No wasted motion. When it stopped moving, he was already up and scanning, knife low, eyes flat. "Two," Dog said, shaking the wreck off Maria. "There's always more than two," Ghost said. There were. The hum was building below. But for one breath, the stairwell was theirs. And that hadn't happened in 6 hours. "Up," Viper said. "Roof access. Go." They found Mama and what was left of Second Squad in a gutted apartment under the roofline. Corporal Lena, "Mama." Reyes had a wounded man across her knees and her hands inside him to the wrist, working fast, working calm, the way she always did. 2 more wounded against the wall, one that wasn't wounded anymore, covered with a coat. "How many can walk?" Viper asked. 2, Mama said, not looking up. "This one if you carry him. The others stay where they are." She tied something off, hard. "I don't lose him just because you're in a hurry, Major." "Wouldn't dream of rushing you." Liar. Her hands kept moving. "But a polite one." Private Chop Wilkins dropped against the wall and let his head fall back. The grin came on him the way it always did. Late, defensive, like a reflex he couldn't kill. "Hey," he said to the room. "Anybody else having a great war?" "No, just me." Nobody laughed. Tough crowd. Tartarus 9. Worst dust I've ever played. "Wilkins," Dog said. "Shut up before I close that mouth with Maria." "Maria likes me," Chop said. "Maria gets my jokes." Then the Vox lit up. Not one channel. All of them. Sets throughout the room came alive at once. Dead men's earpieces, dropped handsets, anything that could still receive a signal. The same carrier tone filled them all. The Xylari override, the one they used when they wanted humans to watch. The little screen on Mama's field unit resolved into an image, and the room went still. It was Schmidt. General Johann Schmidt, who had commanded the 13th, who 6 months ago had stood on a transport ramp and told them they were going home to take back what was theirs. They'd lost contact with his carrier before dawn. Now they knew where he'd gone. He was on his knees in a vast, crystalline hall, lit like a stage. His uniform was gone. He'd been beaten. But he was looking into the lens, and his eyes were steady. And when he found his voice, it carried. 13th, Schmidt said. "If you can hear me, you did your..." A shadow killer stepped into frame behind him. Taller than the rest, armor chased with light. Some kind of officer or executioner or both. It put an energy blade against the back of the general's neck almost gently, the way you'd set a tool down on a bench. The blade brightened. The body folded one way. The head went the other. The transmission did not look away. The Xylari never looked away. That was the point of it. They wanted human space to see, on every world, in every bunker, in every shaking hand, holding a screen. See what becomes of prey that runs. It was over fast. They made sure it was clear, and then it was over. The carrier tone clicked off. The screens went dark. For a long moment, nobody in the room breathed. Chop wasn't grinning. Mama had stopped working, her bloody hands frozen over her patient, and for once, she looked her age. Ghost stared at the dead screen like it owed him something. Dog stood very still, and the grin was gone from the living half of his face, and that was worse than any sound he made. Viper looked at them. His men. The ones the war had left him. He'd had rules once. Rules of engagement, a code, lines you didn't cross because crossing them made you the thing you were fighting. He'd believed in them. He'd court-martialed a man for less than what he was about to ask of every soul in this room. He reached up and switched off the dead Vox so the silence would be his and not theirs. "Okay," he said quietly. That was all at first. Okay. Like he was agreeing to something nobody had said out loud. Then the hum came up through the floor. It came from below, and from the stairwell, and from the next building over, layered, surrounding, a chord of crystal voices that meant the kill teams had finished triangulating the broadcast, and the broadcast had been bait all along. They'd lit up every Vox on Tartarus 9, knowing the survivors would gather to watch their general die, knowing grief would pull them into a room. It always pulled them into a room. They boxed us, Ghost said. No fear in it, just data. Stairwell, fire escape, the gap to the east block, 3 sides. How many? Viper asked. A lot. Ammunition? A beat. Maria, Dog said. And the knives. Chop laughed once, short and ugly, and got to his feet. Well, he said, we're gonna die in a hole, after all that. After everything. We're gonna die cornered in a hole on the planet we came to save. Viper looked at the floor, at the coat over the man who hadn't made it, at the broadcast still burning behind his eyes, the steady look in Schmidt's face, the gentleness with which the blade had been set against his neck. Gentle. Like the general was already a corpse. Like all of them were already corpses, already meat, already prey too stupid to know it. Something in him that had been holding for 6 months let go. When he looked up, the men who knew him best went quiet, because they'd never seen this on Viper's face. Not in 6 months. Not ever. The cold that had always been there had finally found the bottom of itself, and underneath the cold, there was something the Zylari had spent 6 months teaching every human on this world how to become. No, Viper said. Dog turned. Major? No more running. Viper's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It went into the room like the knife went into the seam. Quiet, exact, all the way in. The Zylari wanted a hunt. They've had one. They've had 6 months of one. And we've been the ones bleeding for it. Nobody said anything. So we give them a real one. He looked at each of them. Dog, Ghost, Mama, Chop. The 2 wounded who could walk, and the one who couldn't, and was staying anyway. They think the box is closed. They think they're the hunters, and this is the part where we die scared. The hum was at the door now. Shapes rippled in it. We hunt the hunters, starting in this room, starting now. Dog brought Maria up, and the grin came back to the living half of his face, and it was the worst thing in the building. About time, he said. Ghost set his rifle down, useless weight, and took the second knife off the dead man under the coat, so he had one in each hand. Mama eased her patient flat, stood, and rolled her shoulders. Her hands were red to the wrist. I keep them alive, she said. To no one, to herself, to the door. And I keep them. Both. Chop pulled the last charge off his rig and started rigging the doorway, fingers steady now. The jokes burned out of him into something with edges. Okay, he breathed. Okay, come into the nice room then. The first shimmer crossed the threshold. Viper let it come 3 steps. Let it think the box was closed. Then the lights went out, and the floor came up, and the broken 13th stopped being prey. The lights came up because Chop wanted them up. He'd rigged the apartment's dead lumen strips to a single charge and blown them bright at exactly the right moment. The cloaks took a half-second to adjust. 3 shadow killers flickered solid all at once, caught between settings. The 13th was already inside the window. Dog took the first one through the spine with Maria before it resolved. Ghost opened the second's throat seam with a knife in each hand, crossing them like shears. The third got its blade up, and Viper went in under it, too close, close enough to feel the heat blister his cheek, and drove his own knife into the joint, where the long arm met the chassis. It shrieked. He twisted. It stopped. He came away with a burn down the side of his face. That was the price of the window. You bought the half-second by standing inside the kill. Clear, Ghost said. Not clear. Dog kicked a body. Just quiet. They didn't waste the quiet. Viper crouched over the one he'd dropped and pulled at its armor where the plate had cracked. Underneath, the crystal wasn't solid. It was threaded, fine filaments running through it like veins, and as the alien died, the filaments dimmed, light draining out of them toward something on its back. Reyes, he said, get up here. Mama came, hands still red from the man she'd kept alive. She looked where Viper looked. A node sat between the shadow killer's shoulders, fist-sized, going dark. It's all connected, she said. All of it. Wired to each other. Ghost pulled the salvaged Vox from his pack, the unit from the broadcast room, still drinking the Zilari carrier. He turned the little screen to them. It was a hunt feed. Live. Somewhere across Tartarus 9, a kill team was running down 3 human stragglers in a drainage canal. The feed cut between 4 viewpoints. 4 shadow killers moving as one animal. No calls, no signals, just a shared knowing. A drone hung overhead and fed them the canal from above. They herded the humans the way you'd herd cattle into a chute, unhurried, taking turns. And at the edges of the feed, there were markers Viper didn't understand at first. Scores, Ghost said. Those are scores. They're keeping score. On the screen, a shadow killer let a man almost reach cover, then took his legs. Let him crawl. The others waited. Watched. A ritual none of them broke. Sport, Dog said. The metal half of his face caught the screen light. They're playing. Viper watched a moment longer than he wanted to. Then he killed the feed. They move like one thing, he said, because they are one thing. The net. The drone feeds them eyes. The net feeds them each other. He tapped the dead node on the corpse. Cut a man off from it. And he's still good, Ghost said. Just alone. Maybe. Viper stood. It's a theory. I don't know it. But they don't fight us. They hunt us, and the hunt needs the net. So we stop trying to outshoot them. We've got no shooting left. He looked at Chop. We blind them. Chop was checking his charges. He had 4 left. He held them up. 4, he said. 4 chances to tell them no. Spend them smart. How does blinding work? Mama said. We can't reach the net. It's everywhere. Not everywhere. Ghost had the Vox again. He'd been watching the hunt feed's edges, the data ghosts at the margins. It relays, through their craft. The landing ships carry the local node. Drop a kill team. The ship holds the net for that grid. Kill the ship's node. The team in that grid goes deaf. And the ship's a ship, Dog said. Armored, crewed. We're 4 knives and a comedian. Not in the air, it isn't. Viper was already moving to the window. Down in the ruin, 2 grids east, a Xylari landing craft sat grounded on a cleared plaza, ramp down, recovering a kill team in from the hunt. Crew moving on the ramp, drone docked, teeth deployed and not yet back. Look at it. It's open. It's only open when it's loading. How long's the window? Mama asked. As long as the ramp's down. Dog grinned. Then we run. They ran. They came at the plaza through a collapsed transit tube under the craft's sightlines, while it sat fat and confident with its belly open. 2 crew on the ramp, the recovered kill team filing in, 4 of them, cloaks down, off guard. Because they were home, because the hunt was over, because nothing on this world had ever come at them. Chop went first on his belly with the charges. He had to. The breach was his job, and the breach had to be set against the ship's spine, where the node housing bulged, and that meant crossing the open under the ramp with aliens 15 feet up. Cover me or don't, he breathed. but somebody buy me 30 seconds. Dog bought them. He came up out of the tube into the 2 ramp crew like a landslide. Maria took the first apart at the waist. The second got a blade into Dog's shoulder. He didn't stop, and Dog drove it back into the bulkhead and held it pinned, screaming into the metal half of his face, while Chop worked. The kill team inside turned. Cloaks tried to come up. Inside the hull, lights flickering, the fields couldn't hold clean. Ghost was already through the ramp and into them, knives out, working the window, taking a long cut across the ribs for every alien he opened. Viper at his back with the burn still raw on his face, doing the same, both of them paying in blood for every flicker they caught. "Set!" Chop yelled. "Set! Set! Set! Back! Get back!" They got back, most of them. Chop didn't get all the way back. He was last off the spine, hand still on the trigger cap, when the charge took the node housing. And the housing didn't just crack, it vented. A gout of superheated coolant or fuel or whatever ran in a Xylari ship's veins, burst out sideways, and caught Chop across the left arm and chest and threw him off the hull into the rubble. The node died. The ship went dark and dumb. And in the grid around them, a kill team that had been moving as one animal suddenly wasn't. The 4 survivors inside the wreck still fought, still lethal, still fast, but blind now. No shared eyes, no drone, no knowing where the others were. They got in each other's lines. They hesitated. They fought like 4 good soldiers instead of 1 perfect predator, and 4 good soldiers the 13th could kill. They killed them. It cost. Ghost's ribs were open. Viper's hands were burned. But the grid went quiet, and the quiet was theirs. And for the first time in 6 months, the Xylari in this part of the city did not know where the humans were. Mama already had Chop. She dragged him behind a spur of wall and had his rig cut open and her hands on the burns before the last alien dropped. It was bad. The left arm was bad. He was conscious, which was worse. His jokes coming out in pieces between the kind of breathing you don't want to hear. "Tell me," he got out. "Tell me it looks worse than?" "It doesn't," Mama said. "Shut up. Let me work." "Knew it." His good hand found her wrist. "Knew you'd say that." Dog stood over them, his own shoulder leaking, watching the ruin like it owed him more aliens. "We move him?" "We move him careful, or we don't move him at all." "Then careful." Viper crouched by Chop. Chop's face was gray. The jokes were gone now. What remained was a soldier who'd crossed the open because it was his job. "You bought us the grid, Wilkins. You hear me? You blinded them." "Yeah." Chop's eyes drifted. Mama's hand landed on his shoulder and shook him once. He blinked and came back. It should have been a victory. It was a victory. It lasted as long as it took the node to die. But the node didn't die silent. In the half-second before Chop's charge killed it, it did the one thing it was built to do. It transmitted. It dumped everything it had. The grid, the wreck, the 4 blind soldiers, and the shape of what had killed them, up the net, to the drone feeds, to the command spire, to the officer who'd set a blade against a general's neck and called it sport. In the spire, the executioner watched the grid go dark. It watched the recording the dead node had left, a human cell, small, out of ammunition, every kill made by hand, inside the cloak window, at suicidal range. They had stopped running. They had found the net. They were not behaving like prey. The hunt scores meant nothing now. The broadcasts meant nothing. You did not broadcast a problem. You did not give it an audience. The officer made a sound the net carried to every kill team on Tartarus 9. A new note, low, that pulled the cloaks down across the city, ended the sport, ended the herding and the crawling and the keeping of score. No more theater. The drones lifted. The kill teams went silent and went dark, and stopped hunting humans. They started hunting this one cell. The 13th felt the change before they understood it. The city went quiet. Not their quiet. Wrong quiet. The hums stopped. The hunt feed on the salvaged Vox cut to nothing. Dead air. The Xylari pulling everything off open channels. They stopped broadcasting, Ghost said. He was pressing a wad of cloth to his ribs and frowning at the silent screen. Why would they stop broadcasting? Because they were showing off, Mama said, not looking up from Chop. You don't show off when you're scared. They're not scared, Dog said. No. Viper was watching the rooftops, watching the way the dark had changed texture. The drones were up there now, he thought. Not feeding a show, feeding a search. Not scared. Worse, they stopped playing. He turned the dead Vox over in his burned hands. They'd cut a node. They'd blinded a grid. They'd proved the theory and paid for it in Chop's arm and Ghost's ribs and the last of the charges. 2 left, now, only 2. And in doing it, they'd told the enemy exactly what they were. We showed them the trick, he said quietly. The window. Getting close. He looked at his men. Dog bleeding. Ghost bleeding. Chop gray in Mama's hands. Mama's hands the only steady thing in the grid. An animal that smart. You show it the trick once. The drone light found them. It came down through a gap in the roofline, a single hard point of light that swept across the wall, across Mama, across Chop, and stopped on Viper's face. Held there, painting him, letting him know he was seen. And then, all around the grid, in the windows, in the tube mouths, on the wrecked plaza where they'd just won, the dark began to flicker. Not solid. Not yet. Cloaks at the edge of failing, deliberately, an invitation. The Xylari had set the window for them, stood inside the flicker on purpose, in numbers, in a ring, daring the only tactic the humans had left. Come close, the ring said. We know that's all you've got. Come and get close enough to bleed. That's our move, Ghost said. Flat. They turned our move into the trap. How many? Viper asked. Ghost counted the flickers. Stopped counting. All of them, he said. Viper looked down at Chop, who couldn't run. At Mama, who wouldn't leave him. At the 2 charges, and the knives, and the burns. At the ring of bait closing in, built out of the one trick that had kept them alive. There was no window that wasn't a mouth now. Major, Dog said. Orders. Viper didn't answer right away. He was thinking about a general on his knees, looking steady into a lens, about a thing too smart to fight twice the same way. Get Chop up, he said. We're not dying in this grid. And the ring? Viper closed his burned hand around his knife. We go through the one place they didn't put it, he said. Wherever that is. We find it before that drone tells them we found it. The drone light held on his face. Somewhere above, the officer was watching him decide. The ring wanted them to come close, so Viper went down instead. Floor, he said. Both charges. Now. Mama, my left rig, Chop said. The cap, you have to… Tell me where, Mama said, and her bloody hands followed his broken voice, setting the last 2 charges against the apartment floor, while the ring tightened in the windows, while cloaks flickered their invitation all around them, while the drone light held on Viper's face and told the officer in the spire that the prey was finally cornered. Set, Chop gasped. Down, Viper said. All of you. Now. The floor went out from under them. They fell into the dark with rubble and fire chasing them. A shadow killer lunged to the edge of the hole, fast enough to get its blade down after them. The energy edge caught Mama across the calf as she dropped. A flash of white pain, and then the smoke rolled up between them. A moment later, they hit standing water in the drainage levels beneath the city that had once been Golden Haven. Above, through the hole, the drone light swept the smoke and found nothing. It would find nothing. That was the whole bet. Quiet, Ghost breathed. They were quiet. They listened. Up above, the hum, the net, the search, the synchronized predator knowing that had hunted them for 6 months, pressed at the edges of the hole and stopped. It stopped at the waterline like something hitting glass. Down here, there was too much rock and too much water and too much dead human concrete. The crystal couldn't sing through it. The net didn't reach. They herded those people in the canal from above, Viper said slowly, remembering the feed, the drainage, the drone overhead because nothing went down into the wet. They don't come down here. They can't see down here. Then they don't know where we are, Dog said. His shoulder was a ruin. He held Maria in his good hand, and the bad arm hung. First time in 6 months. Yeah, Ghost was already moving, knife out, into the dark that ran under the whole district. First time, they're the blind ones. They went up grid by grid, and the hunt turned over. Not the city. Viper kept that clear in his own head, even as it happened. This was the district, the Spire's district. This officer's kill teams and no further. Somewhere, the wider war ground on untouched. But here, under here, in these grids, the 13th stopped running. They surfaced where the net was thin, killed, and went back down. In one stairwell, Ghost climbed out of a drain behind a lone shadow killer, opened it before it could react, and dragged the body back into the water. The Zilari adapted, fast, smart, the way they always had. The officer pulled his teams in tight, stopped sending singles, made them hunt in pairs that never left the netted high ground. Good calls, correct calls. They were just half a second too slow for men who'd stopped obeying any doctrine at all. A pair of shadow killers came down a service ramp hunting the humans below. They never saw the attack coming. The squad emerged behind them from a flooded sump the Zilari had never bothered to map, because nothing in the net's models ever went into the water. Dog tore the first apart with Maria one-handed. The second broke and ran. Ghost put a harvested energy blade between its shoulders before it got 10 meters. You see that? Chop said from the litter. Mama and Viper hauled between them. Gray, shaking, alive, narrating, because narrating was all his ruined body could still do for the squad. It ran. Write it down. Somebody write down that it ran. Save it, Mama said. I'm saving it. I'm saving all of it. His good hand twitched toward Viper. Next node. The big one. The spire. You're thinking it. I can see you thinking it. Viper was thinking it. The drains ran downhill. They always had. Golden Haven's engineers had built them to empty into the government sumps at the city's center, and when the Zilari took the city, they'd built their spire on that same ground. Conquerors always built on the old seat of power, which meant the one route the net couldn't properly watch ran straight beneath the officer who'd killed Schmidt. He's still in there, Ghost said when Viper laid it out. Why? Viper wiped water from his burned face. Because he thinks he's already won. He boxed us in, watched the drone lose us, and decided we're rats in a hole waiting to starve. He stopped broadcasting because you don't broadcast cleanup work. He looked up toward where the roots of the spire would be buried in the old city foundations. He's running the whole district hunt from that relay. He has no reason to leave it, and he doesn't think he has to. His mistake, Dog said. His last one. They came up into the spire through its own drains, into the cold, crystalline dark of its lower core, and that was where it stopped being possible. The relay sat behind a pressure seal, a Xylari blast door grown shut, the kind of choke one cell of half-dead humans could never force. Beyond it, the officer. Around it, the last intact kill team in the district, netted, whole, waiting in the one place the net still sang. Ghost went down with a blade through the meat of his thigh and kept fighting from the floor, knives flashing, ribs screaming. Mama dragged Chop's litter into cover and came up out of it into a shadow killer's blind side with her own knife, both her modes at once, saving and ending. Viper's burned hands could barely close on the haft, but he closed them, and he paid for every flicker in skin and blood. But the door wouldn't open. "It's sealed," Ghost shouted from the floor. "Solikov, it's grown shut. There's no—" "Maria opens it," Dog said, and he was already there. He set the power claw's 3 blades into the seam of the pressure door, one good arm, and drove the hydraulics in. The motor screamed. The crystal screamed. The door gave a finger's width and tried to close again on the claw, on Dog's arm, on Dog. "Go," he said. He was holding it. His whole ruined body was holding it, the door fighting to seal. Maria jammed into the gap, the metal half of his face lit by the relay glow beyond. "I got it. I got the door. Go." Viper went through the gap. Behind him the door bore down, and Dog held it, and the kill team turned its blades on the man pinned in the doorway because he was the only one they could reach. And Dog took them, took all of it, holding the gap open with his arm and his back, and the last of himself so the others could pour through. The officer was waiting in the relay chamber. It was taller than the rest, armor chased with light, the same one that had set a blade against a general's neck, like setting down a tool. It had a blade up now. It had understood, the moment the door gave, that its one wrong assumption, that the wet dark was empty, that the rats would starve, that prey stays prey, had cost it everything. Understood it in the way it shifted its stance. Too late. A half-second behind the chaos that had come up through its own floor. No speech. There was no time for one, and it wasn't the kind to give one. It came at Viper, and Viper went in under the blade the way he'd learned to. Close, far too close, close enough to bleed, and put his knife into the throat seam where the armor joined. Plainly. No ceremony. The way you set a tool down on a bench. Viper held it there until the light went out of the filaments. Then he turned to the relay, and Chop, propped in the doorway over Dog's body, gray, dying-voiced, still in the fight, told him where to drive the knife. The Spire's relay died. Across the district, every flicker went out at once. Dog was still alive when Viper got back to the door. The kill team was dead around him, and the door hung open on Maria's ruined frame, and Dog was down in the gap, what was left of him, and Mama had her hands inside him, and her face had gone to the place it went when there was nothing left to do but stay. "Mama," Viper said. "I know." She didn't stop. She never stopped. "I know." Dog's good hand had come off the claw. The metal half of his face couldn't change, but the living half had gone soft. Finally, the grin nowhere on it. "Hey," he said. "Hey, Major. Did it open?" "It opened," Viper said. "You opened it." We got him, Diego." "Good." A wet breath. "Good." His eyes found the claw, jammed and dead in the doorframe, the blades that had carried him through 6 months of this. "Maria," he said. "Take Maria home." "Dog." "My wife," he said, like a confession he'd held a long time. "Maria. And the boy. They're on Centauri 5. The colony, a name none of them would forget, and I named her after Maria, 'cause everyone I killed with that claw was a step closer to them." The breath again. smaller. Tell her I was walking home. The whole time. Tell her I was... He didn't finish. Mama's hand stopped. She left them where they were a moment longer, then drew them out, and bowed her head over the one patient she could not keep, the medic who kept everyone, kneeling in the water, and the relay light with nothing left to do. Nobody said anything. There was nothing to say that the silence didn't say better. Ghost, who had lost a platoon, who had survived alone for so long he'd forgotten it was a thing you could choose to stop doing, came and put his hand on Dog's chest and added the name to the others he carried, the way you add a stone to a cairn. Chop wept openly from the litter, the jokes all gone, crying for the man who'd always had his back. Viper stood over them with his burned hands at his sides. Then he reached down and worked Maria free of the dead door and carried it himself. They left Tartarus 9 at dawn. 4 of them, where there had been 30, where there had been a whole expeditionary force, where there had been a fleet now falling in pieces across the morning sky. Mama's calf wrapped, Ghost limping on a knife wound, Chop alive on a litter, Viper carrying a dead man's claw. The district was quiet behind them. The relay was gone. The net was broken here. Only here. And for a few precious hours, the confusion was bigger than the hunt. The shuttle on the spire had belonged to the officer. Ghost got it airborne because he'd once spent 3 years attached to reconnaissance pilots and had never forgotten anything that kept a man alive. The craft hated him. He hated it back. Between the two of them, it flew. The city fell away beneath them. They had not beaten a species. They had broken one hunt, in one city, run by one officer who'd called butchery a sport. But the Xylari had wanted to send a message. Only days ago they'd dragged a general before the cameras to teach human space what becomes of prey. They'd taught it something else instead. Viper looked back once at the spire shrinking into the morning haze. You wanted us afraid, he thought. You wanted us to learn our place. The dead were taking that lesson home with them. The living would carry it the rest of the way.
Hey there, space human. I'm really curious about your thoughts on this video. Drop a quick comment and let me know what's on your mind. Or just say hi if you prefer. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Also, remember to check the pinned comment. Trust me, it's worth a look. Oh, and one last thing. I've chosen another video for you to watch. Just click the card here, or here if you want the whole playlist. See you there.